back and listen, it'll make your grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah.
Welcome to Pilgrim's Great Chronicles, folks. Your 9 p.m. Central Standard Time show with listener emails, comments, and some of the stuff you send in. Got a quick show tonight because we haven't had a whole lot of comments and emails. In fact, I didn't receive any emails this particular week. Just some lengthy comments that I'm going to do probably a video on. One on our Flat Earth Part 2 that dealt with scriptures dealing with geocentrism and Flat Earth. And it's something I feel like I need to deal with because this gentleman, Chips Aplenty Band, is the YouTube name, did a good job of politely taking certain things to task that he disagrees with that I commented on. The only thing I would take issue with is he went through a number of things, and then at the end he says the Bible is not in conflict with physical science on these matters. Well, I agree, but we don't agree on what the physical science says, so that's a problem there. And then he says to claim that it is, which I'm not, while also pushing flat earth to science-savvy unbelievers as what the Bible teaches, is to occasion predictable and needless mockery, sarcasm against the Bible, God, and the gospel, and thus to hinder the Great Commission. Frankly, if it's true, I don't care that it is giving them occasion to predictably, and the only thing I would be concerned about in that entire sentence is needless, because I don't want to do anything that's needless that would cause mockery, but I don't believe it is, and I'll explain why. But if what I and many others believe is scientifically accurate about the earth and its flatness, then it isn't needlessly doing anything. It is waking people up to the reality that it's very clear that God has made us very important in His image. We're not just tiny little specks in an ever-expanding universe. We are a special creation, according to biblical cosmology or flat earth or whatever you want to call it. I don't even like to use flat earth anymore because of both sides of the aisle. It's almost like you've used the N-word or something, and it immediately evokes bad feelings or whatever. And I think that's a shame. It's really odd to me that it does, because, you could bring up just about anything else, but you talk about flat earth and oh my goodness, it's like, oh, we can't talk about that. That's like the turd in the punch bowl, people get that 1,000-yard stare at you, as some like to call it, the fluoride stare. And so, but I don't mind talking about it. I'm not afraid of any subject, and I'm not. I clearly don't want to hinder the Great Commission, but I don't believe it is, and I would dare you to say that to somebody like George Hobbs, who runs the Flat Earth Files, who would tell you and can provide example after example after example of the good fruit that the discussion of geocentrism brings about, because it makes people feel closer to God when they discover it is like the Bible describes it, and it is flat, and God is close to us, and we are special to Him, and not just a swarm of gnats in this universe. So it bears good fruit, and so I don't see it as hindering the Great Commission, but I also want to be correct in what I have to say. So, like I said, I only take issue with the needless part of it, because if what we're saying is true, then it's not needless. And as far as mockery from unbelievers, they're always going to mock, always, and you just have to be prepared to give a good answer and patiently deal with it. So, and if it, like I said, my only problem is the keyword needless, and I don't believe it is. So anyway, I'm going to make a video in response to this lengthy 2 different responses because it's pretty long and I don't want to go into it here or we'll have an hour-long show and I don't really have time for that. So next comment here is from a Dominic Lawless. And I don't read every single comment, just ones that were important to me or stood out for time's sake. I appreciate every single comment. Don't get me wrong; it's great. Anytime you folks take the time out of your day to like, share, or comment, I am thrilled, and I really appreciate it. Every bit of support. I'm really anxiously awaiting, and I've told my wife Amanda this a couple of times, that I'll really know that I'm beginning to get the kind of outreach I would like and success when I come across somebody walking around with a Pilgrim's Grey Chronicle podcast merchandise clothing on, like a hat or a sweatshirt or a shirt or a bag, a book bag or whatever, or our band, Pilgrim's Grey. Or I always thought it would be great to pull up to a car and hear one of our episodes or hear my band's music playing out of somebody's car. I think that would be awesome. But I've not heard that yet, and still working on the outreach. So any bit helps. So share, tell people about it. And if there's some subject that you've thought, well, I don't really have anything you've done a subject on that I want to share, well, tell me what that subject is. I'll be happy to cover it. I'm always open to suggestions or anybody who wants to come on the show and be interviewed. I don't do debates on the show, live or whatever, just because they almost never turn out good for either party. I don't mind discussing something in the comments or maybe videos back and forth or something like that, but I very seldom do debates turn out to be anything but a big crap show, circus, WWF type garbage. I don't like it. So that's just my own personal thing. So Dominic says that this was, and he's discussing the forgotten resurrection, when the dead walked into Jerusalem, and that was our Monday night show that we did as a follow-up to our Friday special. We normally on Fridays do the top 3 stories of the week, but we decided to do a Good Friday special. And the follow-up was really my wife and I over the weekend have been wondering, these dead people came up as part of the whole Good Friday thing. There was an earthquake, 3 hours of very strange darkness that I brought up in that video too, that couldn't have been an eclipse because there was not a new moon. And not to mention that historical writings indicate that the people who experienced this darkness literally saw the stars out and were terrified because it was so dark. It was an unnatural, terrifying darkness, which they would not have described it that way if it were just an eclipse. They've experienced eclipses before. Anyway, so this was about the saints that came out of their tombs and walked into Jerusalem and testified and were seen by many. And we're not given a whole lot of information, but I will give you a teaser that if you watch the video and go look at it, you will find that there's been a couple of people that were named in extra biblical sources that were seen, and what they did and what they said about Jesus and what he did while in the underworld. There's some writings about it that I mentioned in that video that if you're curious, go check it out. And so he says, this video was insightful, every bit of it. I loved it. I have read this account in Matthew before, but never took the time to look into it. Something more for me to study. Great insight. I have been watching a gentleman on YouTube. His YouTube name is Temple 2030. The Messiah codes, he has worked out the exact time of Jesus' consecration, the exact time of his death and burial and his resurrection, and the time of his return. Not the rapture, because no man knows. If you get to a chance to have a look, keep up the kingdom work. Thank you, Dominic. I will. And I am kind of familiar with what he's talking about, the 2030 prophecy that has to do with the Essenes and 6,000 years for men, because 6 is the number for men, and there's 6 days in the week, and it has to do with weeks and weeks of years. And so 7,000 years to complete it all, and the 7,000 year would be the millennial kingdom. And I'm pretty sure that they say that either 2030 is the year that all starts, or that is the year that he comes back and the millennial kingdom starts. But I get that it has something to do with that. And it's very interesting, and there's usually different insights that come up in everybody's version of that. So I'll take a look and see if I hear anything new in that one, because it's always interesting to me. And then we have China Thai 25 on our Forgotten History of Tartaria video, if you've not seen that one. That was also early on when I was using AI for voices, because I didn't have time to do a podcast and use my own voice. And I was taking time out to also put videos together, which I really don't have time for that anymore either. And I was told by some who emailed me that they don't really watch videos anyway. They just want to listen to a podcast, and wanted the podcast to be longer instead of me doing 14-minute episodes or 5-minute episodes or whatever. So I get all that, and I'm just trying to work things around a combination of what I feel like I need to do and what you all enjoy. So, so it's a win-win for both. So anyway, he says, can you elaborate more on this second timeline, something going on here, especially with these Mandela effects? Well, I don't really subscribe to the theory of Mandela effects and timeline things like that, but I do believe that the little g gods, or the sons of God, or the divine council that from Babel, where they nations were split into 70 different nations under the little g gods, and worshipped by different names: Thor, Jupiter, Saturn, Zeus, you name it. Gentiles have been worshiping the little g gods, the angels that decided they wanted to be worshipped, for many centuries. And I believe they have the power to try to cover up history. If God doesn't want it covered up, it won't be. And he'll let things leak out one thing at a time until we figure it out and we realize, oh, it's just these little g gods playing games with us. But at some point, the final cycle of them playing games with us is going to come to a close, and they will be judged. I don't think they know when it is, and we can't be 100% certain either, other than what Scripture has provided for us as hints and clues, right? So, and I believe Scripture, the Bible, because it has a great track record, and the only track record I'm aware of getting prophecy right. And that is because it was inspired by God, who knows the beginning from the end. He's the one that set this world of free choices into motion. And yes, I believe in free will, in God's mental knowledge, and I believe his sovereignty and our free will can be best explained by the Molinist or middle knowledge concept. So going on, some of my favorite comments, I don't even know what to think of things like this, but so on Satan's Little Season Theory Debunked, I get comments like this occasionally. I don't know how you would respond, but when somebody says something like, only took 1 minute to show you did no homework. So I'm just like, well, how do you even respond to that? Because you have no idea what they're referencing. I have no reference point. 1 minute, really, 1 minute. Hell, my show intro is almost a full minute long. So I don't even know what they could be referencing that made them come to this conclusion. So I just said, interesting, and may I ask you to show us your homework to more clearly understand how you came to this conclusion in such a brief amount of time. And of course, I won't typically get a response because people type these things out in a quick one-off, and sometimes I even just wonder if they're just bots, you know. And then we've had some international people. I have to translate it because I can't speak their language, but it looks like it's probably Indonesian. I know that there are many Christians out in the Southeast Asia area, and man, I really appreciate y'all listening and paying attention to the show. If I can figure out the translation, I'll try to respond to your comments. I did on this one because somebody asked for prayer about somebody needing prayers for wanting to have children. And so I prayed that would be the case for them if that's God's will. And so, and a lot of amens. And one of my favorite comments of the week was, and I'm guessing this is probably somebody who is from that region as well, because we got a number of comments that particular day, and that was one of them, but who says, Jesus God is God. And that makes sense to me. When you live in a region where there's so many other gods that people worship, it makes total sense to say that Jesus God is God, not the other ones. So that's really great, and I really appreciate the comment. And to thank you, you can't hide truth forever. Totally 100% correct. And I would also like to say to Beth Brockman, I appreciate it. She says that just recently found your channel. I'm enjoying your videos. For the mere fact they're exposing the adversary's realm, it's the biggest help you can do for mankind. He is relentless. He is the great counterfeiter. And spiritual sight is a big deal. I couldn't agree with you more. And I agree with you on the importance of it. And it's why I'm doing it. I don't feel satisfied just to take in all this information that I find out about as I'm doing my Bible studies, studies about history, studies about government, studies about how the Watchers operate in our world, what they do, how they do it, how long they've been doing it. And they generally use the same MO with a different flavor every time. And they're incredibly good at deceit and Hegelian dialect, where they get their hinchlings, if you want to call it that, or bloodlines, or you know what I'm saying. They get their humans that cooperate with them to generate chaos as their agents. And then the same people who create the chaos then provide you with a hero to solve your problems every time. And we fall for it because we think, oh, this person's coming along and saving us from all these horrible things. And then we go trotting along, trusting them as if they're the Messiah or something, when they're not. And then we wind up getting things like horrible legislation like the Patriot Act that basically, hey, this person is a terrorist, and so you no longer have any Fourth Amendment rights. And they can designate anybody they want that way. I mean, there's supposed to be stipulations within it that make it difficult, but we've already seen how they will literally call anybody that they feel are problematic, including parents going to school meetings, terrorist if necessary, to be able to do whatever they want to them. And so with that in mind, you basically have no Fourth Amendment. It's been destroyed because of it. And we bought into it because of the 9/11 stuff, because of George Bush, because of the patriotism. They played on our good hearts. They always play on our good hearts. And they always know that we're looking for goodness out there, just like they played us with the whole, 2020 thing and preyed on our desire to do good by our neighbor, right? And the whole time they were just blowing smoke up your butt and lying to you so that you would take something that would cull the population, basically. I call it Project Thanos. But everybody fell for it, or huge, vast numbers of us fell for it. And now many of those people are dying of turbo cancers, heart issues. They'll have medical issues forever because of it, and so on. And I'm almost positive that was the whole point of it. The whole point of it. Because not once did they say, why don't you go out and get some sunshine? That's really good for you. Why don't you get some exercise? Why don't you do this? And RFK just recently admitted, right, that other products out there would have worked, but they couldn't let you know that because otherwise they would not be allowed to use the emergency use authorization for an experimental thing like the mRNA stuff. They wouldn't be able to do it. And that's why they hid all that. Now you have to ask yourself, why would they do that? Because they wanted to funnel you into one choice. And why would they want you to make that one choice when they knew, and you know they knew, you have to know that they knew that when you took it, it would not be good for you and it would cause problems. But they still wanted you to have no other option but that. Think about that and where that's headed. Because I think they'll probably try it again. But anyway, with that being said, I'd like to go into something, and here's why. And I wanted to segue into this because a listener to the Fact Hunter, I think it is, was letting me know that some of this really cool episode that George Hobbs was doing on the Oklahoma City bombing. And so the segue here is that until many of you who are listening learn to stop trusting your governing officials, because generally speaking, they're all compromised, they're all crooked, and they're all up to no good, we're going to have problems. And stop letting them pit you one against another. You know, quit letting them split you into two political parties. Just be neighbors to one another, you know, and quit letting them bring up issues that constantly divide you that really aren't that important. They make them important because they keep brainwashing you into it through mockingbird media. That probably one of the best things you could do for your sense of mind and anxiety and fear is quit watching the TV and learn to dig in other areas. But one of the things I wanted to share with you is if you don't believe that your government's not willing to do things, even bump people off and get rid of you, and the events of 2020 aren't enough to convince you. This person brought up a number of the people, and this is just a partial list of people who passed away before and after the Oklahoma City events, very suspiciously, like Terrence Yeakey, the Oklahoma City police sergeant, who was first on the scene there. He's one of the first people there, and he knew what had happened, and heroically rescued at least 4 people from the wreckage there. And anyway, he allegedly killed himself with these cuts on his arms and wrist and his neck, and then a gunshot wound to the head. That is it's from the top down. The wound is in the top of his head. Nobody does that, folks. Nobody. And friends and families question the suicide ruling, noting the absence of a suicide note, his apparent plans to expose information about the bombing response, and some believe he was conducting his own investigation into the bombing and was silenced because of it. I promise you that is probably the case, because he's not the only one who died for the exact same reason. You got Kenneth Michael Trentadue, who was an inmate at the Federal Transfer Center, arrested for a parole violation in June of 95 and transferred to the Federal Transfer Center in Oklahoma City in 95. and he was found hung in his cell. And his family disputed the suicide ruling, citing multiple bruises and lacerations on his body, suggesting a violent struggle. They believe he was mistaken for Richard Lee Guthrie Jr., a member of the Aryan Republic Army, suspected of involvement in the bombing. Guthrie also died in custody under suspicious circumstances. It's because he knew things that he wasn't supposed to know. They beat the hell out of him to find out, and then faked him hanging himself, is my conjecture. Then we have Richard Lee Guthrie Jr., member of the ARA, as I've just mentioned, and having ties to Timothy McVeigh. He was found dead in his prison cell in '96, the day before he was scheduled to give a television interview. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging. The timing of Guthrie's death just before a planned interview obviously is going to fuel speculation about potential foul play and efforts to silence him. And many believe that he possessed information, including myself, that could have shed light on additional conspirators involved in the bombing, including the other guy that was allegedly mistakenly killed because they thought it was him. Anyway, and that's not all. We have Alden Gillis Baker, also an inmate at the Federal Transfer Center in Oklahoma City at the same time as Kenneth Trentadue, who claimed to have witnessed Trentadue's death and alleged that the prison guards were responsible. Literally heard the screaming and then beating the hell out of him. In August 2000, Baker was found dead in his cell, also from an apparent suicide. So many suicidal people around the Oklahoma City bombing thing. I'm sure it's all just a coincidence, though. And his death occurred after he expressed fears for his life and indicated a willingness to testify about Trentadue's death. So Baker's death has been viewed by some as part of a pattern, no kidding, of silencing potential witnesses who could provide information contradicting official accounts of events related to the bombing. I highly recommend you listen to the Fact Hunter 2 episodes, Oklahoma City 1 and 2, and you'll get the full details of that. And I hope it will teach you a valuable lesson in not trusting your government, because they can and will do you in if they need to. Then they won't think twice about it. Another example of that on a grander scale would be Operation Northwoods. I've mentioned it before. JFK wouldn't go along with it, and I think that's one of a few different reasons why he's no longer with us and the CIA took him out, is his lack of cooperation with the wanting to go to war with Cuba by downing one of the ideas behind Project Northwoods, or Operation Northwoods, was a suggestion that perhaps we might be able to convince the American public to go to war if we fake a commercial airline jet or something along those lines being shot down by Cuba. And so they would just make all of that up and false flag us into a war. That is what they do, and I don't know why any of us ever trusted them. I ashamedly and regrettably fell for the whole 9/11 patriotism thing. Not that it's wrong to be patriotic, but they used us. They lied to us, they used us, and then they passed the Patriot Act and did a lot of other things, all as a result of that. These skull and bone guys like George Bush Jr. and Sr. and all of them. So just be aware of what you're really dealing with, I guess is what I'm saying, and quit letting them lie to you. And instead of you believing the Mockingbird media that spent decades of building up your trust, making you think you can trust them, even though they all mimic, like mockingbirds, all the same talking points all the time. And you can see it if you just go look it up. You'll see all the same people using all the same phrases. One of my favorites was gravitas during one of the elections. Nobody ever uses that word. Nobody had ever used that word. And then all of a sudden, everybody from your local Channel 2 person all the way up to the major networks. Oh, this person lacks gravitas. As if they've ever used that word before in their life. But they all used it, and you can see the montage put together of all of them doing it. And it's not just that. It's everything. I'm sure you've seen it. From local news to national news, they get told what to say and what narratives to build, what not to say, what to say, how to say it, all for one purpose, for you to believe them. And they always put trustworthy looking, attractive people who know how to read, who know how to play on your emotions, who know how to say just the right things, all for one purpose, and that is to propagandize you into buying whatever BS they need to sell you for whatever it is they want to accomplish. Just stop buying it and do your own research. Go around them, under them, on top, over, whatever you got to do, but quit trusting them. That's what I'm telling you. Anyway, it's been great speaking to you this evening, and I hope the rest of the work week is great. Mine has been tiring so far, but we will see you Friday night with the top 3 stories of the week this time. No surprises, just going to be the top 3, no special like we had last Friday. And with that, I'll play you out.
It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in. So kick back and listen, it'll make you grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in.